just those certain people that come around occasionally in a lifetime that affect you when they sing. And like Streisand, you know, and
they're still mourning over Keith. They lost their hero. I mean, they're honoring him all the time, you know, and Sandy Hook never forgot Keith. And I will say this, Keith never forgot Sandy Hook.
Keith Whitley was more than a country music singer. He was a symbol of pure emotion and genuine storytelling. Born on July 1st, 1954, in Kentucky's Appalachian heart, Whitley's rise from small-town roots to stardom illustrated a rare blend of talent and dedication. His soulful baritone graced hits like When You Say Nothing at All and Don't Close Your Eyes, songs that not only topped charts, but deeply moved listeners. Yet beneath the fame, there was a haunting narrative, a battle with personal demons and addiction that would tragically define his fate. When Whitley passed away on May 9, 1989, it shocked the country music world and sparked questions about what led to that heartbreaking day. For years, whispers surfaced about Whitley's struggles and the impact on his marriage with singer Lorrie Morgan. Now, after facing her own heartache, Morgan is opening up, offering insights into that fateful night, one marked by pain, love, and lingering mysteries. As we journey through Keith Whitley's life, we'll uncover not only his ascent in music, but also the battles he faced along the way. What led to those final moments? How did addiction intertwine with his relationship with Morgan? And what secrets still linger? Join us as we explore the life of Keith Whitley, a life marked by musical brilliance, tragic loss, and a love story that endured through it all. Keith Whitley's journey began on July 1st, 1954, in the small town of Sandy Hook, Kentucky, where music wasn't just a pastime, it was a way of life. Even as a young boy, it was clear he was born with a rare talent. By age 4, he was captivating small audiences with his voice, and by 6, he'd earned his first guitar, a gift from his father after winning a local talent contest. Growing up, his mother, Faye, an instrumentalist herself, nurtured Keith's musical inclinations, teaching him guitar and sharing the Appalachian sounds that would anchor his style. Keith was a natural, drawing inspiration from the haunting bluegrass of the Stanley Brothers and the raw emotional edge of honky-tonk legends like Hank Williams and Lefty Frizzle. By the time he hit high school, he was already performing with his brother Dwight in local bands, showcasing a vocal style that set him apart. His voice, even then, was noted for its emotional depth, a quality that would soon become his calling card in country music. But alongside his early success came signs of an inner struggle. Growing up in rural Kentucky meant Keith was introduced early to the world of bootleg bourbon. Late nights with friends often turned into dangerous escapades on winding mountain roads, and one of these outings ended in tragedy with the loss of a close friend. This event left a lasting mark on Keith and foreshadowed the struggles with addiction that would follow him into adulthood. In his late teens and early 20s, Keith's career began to gain traction. He was recognized for his unique ability to bend notes and convey heartache through his voice, traits that appealed to both bluegrass fans and the emerging Nashville scene. Despite his talents in bluegrass, Keith felt drawn to the broader, more expressive realm of honky-tonk. His ambition was unshakable, and he began collaborating with seasoned Nashville songwriters, crafting tracks that revealed both his roots and a vision for the future. By the late 1970s, whispers of Keith's struggles with alcohol were becoming harder to ignore. Yet his star continued to rise, and Nashville executives saw potential in his mix of tradition and originality. As his reputation grew, so did the pressures of the industry, a world that often glamorized the very vices Keith struggled with. Keith's journey from Sandy Hook to Nashville was one driven by his love for music and the desire to connect through storytelling. The experiences of his youth, his family's support, his early love of Appalachian music, and the pain of personal loss shaped his distinctive style. As he stepped into the Nashville spotlight, Keith Whitley was more than ready to make his mark, but he was also carrying the weight of struggles that would soon challenge everything he had worked for. Keith Whitley's journey from a small-town musician to a rising star in Nashville was both thrilling and challenging. By the late 1970s, his talent was undeniable. His voice, rich, emotive, and raw, made him stand out. He started getting noticed in Nashville as he transitioned from bluegrass to country, a move that set him on the path to stardom. Keith's big break came when he joined the popular band Highway 101. This opportunity placed him in the Nashville spotlight, where fans and producers took note of his distinct sound. In 1984, Keith signed with RCA Records, a major milestone that gave him the platform to release his debut album, A Hard Act to Follow. The album featured the hit, Miami, My Amy, a track that quickly gained popularity for its honest lyrics and heartfelt delivery. Keith's blend of traditional country and modern edge was irresistible, and his ability to connect with audiences through his raw emotional expression was now undeniable. As his star rose, Keith found himself navigating the fast-paced and often ruthless world of the Nashville music scene. The pressures of fame brought with them a set of challenges that tested him in unexpected ways. The country music world in the 1980s was both demanding and indulgent. With success came temptations, and Keith often found himself in an environment where alcohol flowed freely. While he poured himself into his career, balancing this newfound fame with personal stability would soon become a constant struggle. Around this time, Keith's personal life took a romantic turn when he met fellow country singer Lorrie Morgan. The two crossed paths while promoting Keith's album LA to Miami. Their chemistry was undeniable, and a whirlwind romance quickly ensued. But with the relationship came its own set of challenges. Keith's past struggles with alcohol were well known, and Morgan's manager, Don Light, warned her about the risks of dating someone with Keith's history. Despite the warnings, Lorrie was deeply drawn to Keith, convinced that their love could help him overcome his personal battles. The couple married in November 1986, and their happiness grew with the birth of their son, Jesse Keith Whitley. But even as their family blossomed, Keith's ongoing struggle with alcohol remained a source of tension. Lorrie dedicated herself to supporting him, doing everything she could to help him battle his demons. At one point, she even tied their legs together at night to prevent him from sneaking out to drink, a desperate measure that revealed the intensity of their struggles and her deep commitment to him. As Keith's career soared, so did the difficulties he faced behind the scenes. Fame brought him widespread recognition, and his music began to reach a larger audience than ever before. However, his addiction was becoming harder to hide. Industry insiders were aware of his struggles, and while Keith's raw talent earned him respect, the whispers of his drinking were hard to ignore. For Lorrie, every phone call became a source of anxiety, and she described being constantly on edge, worried about his safety and their future together. Yet Keith continued to produce hits, and his songs climbed the charts. His music resonated with fans because of its emotional authenticity, and Keith became known for songs that explored themes of love, heartache, and resilience. His voice had a way of making listeners feel the depth of every word, connecting with them on a deeply personal level. But as much as his music was celebrated, Keith was struggling in silence, and his personal battles were taking a toll on his health and his relationships. As his popularity grew, Keith's marriage to Lorrie was both a source of strength and strain. Their love was evident, but addiction was a powerful adversary. Lorrie once recalled that every moment of joy was shadowed by fear. Every time the phone would ring, I was on pins and needles, she shared, reflecting the constant tension that addiction brought into their lives. By the late 1980s, Keith Whitley was at the peak of his career, celebrated as one of country music's brightest stars. His voice had captivated fans across the nation, and his songs were hailed for their honesty and emotional depth. But the fame, the pressures, and the relentless struggle with addiction were becoming increasingly difficult to manage. Keith was a man caught between two worlds, the one he loved, filled with music and family, and the one that pulled him into the dark depths of addiction. As we move further into his story, we'll explore the impact of these challenges on his music, his marriage, and ultimately, his legacy. What obstacles would he face as he navigated his rise to fame? And how would those struggles shape the future for both Keith and Lorrie? As Keith Whitley's fame soared, so did the dark shadow of his addiction. Though celebrated for his raw talent and deeply emotional performances, Keith's struggles with alcohol were intensifying behind the scenes. What began as teenage experimentation had turned into a dangerous dependency, an ever-present burden that he carried through every high and low of his career. For Keith, alcohol was a way to cope with the pressures of fame and the weight of his own insecurities. His teenage years in Kentucky had exposed him early to drinking, especially as he and his friends found thrills in late-night escapades. Yet, the consequences were serious. One tragic night during a drinking spree claimed the life of a close friend, a loss that haunted Keith and hinted at the deeper struggles that would follow him. By the time he reached Nashville stardom, Keith's drinking habits had grown into a severe addiction. Despite his love for music and the unwavering support from his wife, Lorrie Morgan, Keith was often caught in an endless cycle of dependency. Every time the phone would ring, I feared the worst. Lorrie later reflected. Her words captured the constant anxiety that marked their life together, as she lived in dread of the impact his addiction might have on their family. In public, Keith projected an image of a talented, relatable artist, but behind closed doors, his battles with alcohol were relentless. Lorrie became his steady support, often taking extreme measures to protect him. In one memorable instance, she tied their legs together at night, hoping to prevent him from sneaking out to drink. This act was more than just a symbol of her love. It was a testament to the lengths she went to in order to help him battle his inner demons. As his addiction worsened, whispers began to circulate within the country music community about the toll it was taking on his life and career. Friends, colleagues, and fans could sense that the charismatic performer on stage was facing a painful private struggle off stage. Keith's battle with alcohol was so severe that rumors suggested he might even have resorted to consuming household products like Listerine to satisfy his cravings, a chilling reflection of the depth of his dependency. While Lorrie's love provided him with stability, it wasn't enough to combat the powerful grip of addiction. She was dedicated, but Keith's struggles ran deeper than she could fully understand or control. In her private moments, Lorrie expressed the heartache and helplessness she felt. "I thought love could help him," she admitted, a sentiment that captured both the strength of her commitment and the limits of what even love could accomplish in the face of addiction. Despite his growing personal turmoil, Keith continued to captivate audiences with his music. His unique voice and ability to convey raw emotion kept fans coming back, even as those closest to him grew increasingly concerned. Keith's story was one of duality, an artist who could reach the depths of human experience in his songs, yet whose own life was being overshadowed by an addiction that seemed impossible to escape. As Keith Whitley faced the rising pressures of fame, the struggle between his personal battles and professional success reached a breaking point. His story reflects the darker side of fame, where even immense talent and a supportive family couldn't shield him from the relentless grip of addiction. How would this battle shape his legacy, and what cost would it ultimately bring to both Keith and Lorrie? May 9, 1989, remains a haunting date in country music. It was the day the world lost Keith Whitley, a man whose voice had touched so many and whose struggles were just beginning to come to light. That night, the layers of Keith's public and private life collided, ending in a tragedy that left an unfillable void in the hearts of his fans, family, and fellow musicians. Keith's home in Goodlettsville, Tennessee, became the stage for this final act. He had been struggling deeply with his addiction, and though he was known for his soulful voice and heartfelt lyrics, those closest to him saw a man in constant turmoil. His wife, Lorrie Morgan, had been a steady support, though the demands of her own career sometimes meant leaving Keith alone, a reality that became painfully apparent that fateful evening. On that day, Lorrie was preparing for an upcoming tour, a responsibility she couldn't avoid. She admitted later that a feeling of dread lingered in her mind as she left, knowing how fragile Keith's sobriety was. Every time the phone would ring, "I feared the worst," she would reflect, capturing the dread that had come to define their life together as Keith's addiction escalated. Her absence that night left Keith alone with his inner demons. According to reports, Keith began drinking heavily that evening, reportedly consuming an astonishing amount of alcohol, up to 20 shots of 100-proof liquor within a short period. The level of his blood alcohol content, BAC, later registered at 47, almost 5 times the legal limit, a shocking statistic that underscored the severity of his dependency. Friends and fans were left wondering what could have driven him to such an extreme, and rumors quickly spread in the days following his death. One theory suggested that Keith might have resorted to extreme measures to avoid detection, as Lorrie had tried to limit his access to alcohol at home. Speculation arose that he may have turned to household products like Listerine to satisfy his addiction. Though it remains unconfirmed, this chilling possibility only deepened the tragedy, painting a picture of a man who felt trapped, desperately seeking relief even if it meant endangering his life. When the call finally came, it was as devastating as Lorrie had feared. Keith was found unresponsive, and despite attempts to revive him, he was pronounced dead. News of his passing reverberated through the country music community, hitting his fans, friends, and fellow artists with a profound sense of loss. Keith was only 34, his potential yet unrealized, and his death left countless questions in its wake. In the days following his death, the country music world mourned as tributes poured in from musicians who had been touched by his talent and spirit. But alongside the condolences were whispers of blame, as some questioned Lorrie's role, unfairly holding her responsible for not preventing the tragic outcome. In truth, Lorrie knew all too well that addiction was a powerful adversary, one that even the strongest love couldn't always conquer. And that Keith's death marked the end of a journey that had been as inspiring as it was heartbreaking. His legacy, however, would live on, not only in his music, but in the lessons his life taught about the complexities of fame, love, and addiction. Keith's story was a reminder of both the heights of musical success and the hidden battles that so often accompany it. In the wake of Keith Whitley's tragic death, Lorrie Morgan found herself grappling with a storm of emotions: grief, guilt, and a sense of responsibility. As the widow of one of country music's brightest rising stars, Lorrie carried the weight of both their love story and the scars left by Keith's struggles. The pain of losing him to addiction was only compounded by the public scrutiny that followed, casting a harsh spotlight on her role in Keith's life and his untimely passing. Lorrie has often spoken about their intense, passionate relationship, one marked by love that ran as deep as the challenges they faced together. "Keith treated me like a queen," she reflected, recalling the joy and tenderness he showed despite his battles with addiction. Their marriage had been a whirlwind of emotional highs and lows, each filled with profound love, but also constant fear. Lorrie cherished those moments when Keith was his true self, loving, attentive, and creative. But she also lived in dread of the dark side of his addiction that could surface without warning. One of her most vivid memories is tying their legs together at night to keep Keith from sneaking out to drink, a desperate act that symbolized both her devotion and the limits of what she could do to protect him. Despite her efforts, Lorrie knew deep down that Keith's battle with addiction was one he had to confront himself. "I feel in my heart, I kept Keith alive longer because I was there all the time," she once shared, a painful realization that love alone couldn't shield him from his demons. Following Keith's death, Lorrie faced intense media and public scrutiny. Many questioned how someone so close to him could have allowed his addiction to spiral so far out of control. Yet, Lorrie was firm in her conviction that she had done all she could. "It wasn't as if I could have stopped him," she explained, highlighting the unyielding nature of addiction and the toll it takes not only on the individual, but also on those who love them. Lorrie's words reflected the complexity of her experience. She had been a fierce supporter, a caregiver, and a witness to the harsh realities of Keith's inner struggles. As the years went by, Lorrie channeled her grief into advocating for greater awareness around mental health and addiction. Through interviews and public appearances, she sought to shed light on the complexity of addiction, hoping to offer support to others facing similar battles. It wasn't just about Keith. It was about understanding the layers of addiction and the lives it touches, she shared, using her platform to emphasize compassion and empathy. Keith's death was a wound that never fully healed, but Lorrie found ways to honor his legacy while pursuing her own journey of healing. She continued her music career, often sharing her experiences through her songs, keeping Keith's memory alive in her own way. In recounting her life with him, she wanted people to remember Keith not only for his struggles, but also for his warmth, talent, and love. In reflecting on their love, Lorrie has shown remarkable resilience. Her story speaks not only to the pain of losing Keith, but also to the lessons learned about love, loss, and perseverance in the face of overwhelming challenges. Their story reminds us of the depth of human connection and the enduring impact of those we lose too soon. Keith Whitley's death on May 9, 1989, sent shockwaves through the country music world, leaving a deep void in the hearts of fans and fellow artists. Just as he was on the cusp of becoming one of the genre's defining voices, his life was tragically cut short, and his passing brought a renewed focus on the challenges of addiction that many artists face behind closed doors. In the days following his death, tributes poured in from country legends like George Jones and Alan Jackson, who remembered Keith not only for his talent, but also for the emotion he brought to his music. His songs, filled with themes of love, heartbreak, and redemption, resonated with fans who saw him as more than a performer. To many, he was a friend who understood their struggles. Hits like "Don't Close Your Eyes" and "I'm No Stranger to the Rain" became symbols of his legacy, songs that spoke to listeners' own experiences with loss and resilience. For Lorrie Morgan, the aftermath of Keith's passing was a time of immense grief and introspection. She faced public scrutiny and media speculation about her role in his life, with some questioning whether she had done enough to help him. But Lorrie remained focused on honoring Keith's legacy, determined to celebrate the man she loved rather than let addiction define him. She became an advocate for mental health and addiction awareness, sharing their story to help others understand the complexities of addiction and the toll it takes on everyone it touches. As years passed, Keith's influence in country music only grew. His recordings continued to reach new audiences, and posthumous releases kept his voice alive for generations of fans. His songs took on a new meaning, resonating as both powerful pieces of music and reminders of the struggles he faced. For fans, Keith's music became a bridge to his legacy, a voice that, though silenced too soon, continues to echo through time. Keith Whitley's story remains a reminder of both the heights of artistic achievement and the painful realities that often accompany fame. His legacy is one of both triumph and tragedy, and his life serves as a poignant reflection on the power of music and the price some pay to bring it to life. As we remember Keith, we honor not only his contributions to country music, but also the lessons his life and death continue to impart about resilience, compassion, and the enduring impact of true talent.